Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Block Party number 47. We are on the topic of one of the rides that I'm proposing for Togetherland within ICIC, the intentional city in the clouds. We were all familiar with intentional communities. What we're talking about now is taking it up a notch to an intentional city within which there can be myriad intentional communities with different areas of focus, with different philosophies. It's all good because here on Earth, the different communities, virtual communities, transformational communities, intentional communities, online and offline, we are all too often in opposition to each other when really we should be working together. So the idea of an intentional city is to create a safe, radically inclusive place where all these different intentional communities can come together up in the clouds, in the intentional city in the clouds, and have first conversations to get to know each other. Again, in a safe place. So part of this requires creating a new culture, right? One of the characteristics of the old paradigm, which permeates everything. You know how like money has permeated so many different nonprofits and communities that call themselves transformational communities, but they have a business model and it's pay to play and all that. Well, likewise, the old carryover of competition, including cutthroat competition, has been pervasive among the nonprofit sector and even the transformational communities. I've been the subject of two character assassination attempts from the same transformational community, which it turns out is doing a lot of good overall. I mean, they're doing a lot of good stuff. They simply felt threatened by what I was doing, first with the conversation, then with the press conference, and on both occasions when we were launching something new and transformational, I became the subject of a very vicious character assassination attempt. Different attempts, but both coming from within the same transformational community. And I say this as just an example of something that I think is just all too common, which is competition. I mean, that's the worst of the worst, character assassination. But regardless of how it flares up, competition is competition, hoarding is hoarding. And what we need right now is the opposite. We need to come together. So, what we're essentially doing is creating something like a Montessori school for these different transformational communities and intentional, and or intentional communities to come together and play nice with each other and figure out, what do we have in common and what do we need to build in common? What do we need to co-create so that we can all work together well? And so, obviously, conversations like these and spaces for such conversations, like the conversation.cc, et cetera, I believe are absolutely essential. But I also think that another essential thing is something like an amusement park where people can go on rides like La Cola del Diablo, where we go into the depths of, which means the devil's tail, where we go into the depths of exponential climate change and really get in a very visceral, experiential way what we're up against and where we're headed and what the trends are of exponential planetary overheating. That's the first ride. The second ride I call the devil's fire extinguisher, which is the antidote, the singular antidote to exponential planetary overheating. In other words, there is nothing that even comes close to the impacts of solar radiation management as the singular solution to exponential planetary overheating. Now, I'm not saying that's going to solve all of our problems by no stretch, right? Just cooling the planet alone is not going to stop the devastation of the biosphere. It's one of the essential ingredients of the devastation of the biosphere, but it's not the only one. The other main one is animal agriculture. So we need a multi-pronged approach. But as far as the problem of exponential planetary overheating, that has a singular solution in the short term, and that's SRM, solar radiation management. It has other solutions for a longer term, reducing greenhouse gases, reducing emissions, sequestering carbon, but those are simply not viable in the short term. There is not a single technology or methodology that can sequester enough carbon and methane fast enough to defeat and bring under control the exponential planetary overheating that we're now in the midst of, and which is growing worse by the day. Only SRM can do that. That's what I call the devil's fire extinguisher. And in order to both A, face the reality of exponential planetary overheating, which I call the, la cola del diablo, and its antidote, the devil's fire extinguisher, humanity needs to be able to wake up and look at these realities, the reality of the problem and the reality of the solution, with a clear head. And I believe the only way that we can really get humanity to see anything with a clear head is by liberating humanity from the all-day monopoly game of individual hoarding for individual survival. And hence the other ride, the third ride I'm promoting within Togetherland, being humanity's oxygen mask, food healers, feeding everyone nutritious plant-based foods, everyone, 3 meals a day, no exceptions. Oh, I got to pause for a second. I'll be right back, pausing recording. So anyway, the virtual amusement park, some of the rides aren't so amusing, particularly La Cola del Diablo, the devil's tail. But it's a way to really give people somewhat of a crash course, an intensive reality check crash course as to what's really going on here and what we need to do and with what level of urgency. And I think there should be many rides within Togetherland, the purpose of which is to bring us together with a common understanding of what is most critical, that we all understand and all see, right? Again, the name of the intentional city in the clouds, the acronym ICIC, it's for all of us to see what's going on. And one of the ways, see, we're talking about, how do we make this really attractive for people to come and first pay a visit to ICIC? And so one of the mechanisms for that we've come up with is the program, the platform, El Puente, the bridge, a bridge between cultures, between languages, between peoples, and a bridge between the world as we know it and ICIC, the intentional city in the clouds. So anyway, just wanted to kick off the conversation with those ideas and see, are there any questions or comments or other ideas folks would like to put on the table?
Right now, just listening, Jamin. Not really much to add, but yeah, going with the flow that you got here going.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So, I personally am just so excited because, again, we've got all these divergent communities and this hangover of separation and competition that plagues even the best of the nonprofits in the transformational communities.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're still competing with each other, and each is trying to be number one, right? So I also kind of like this analogy of the Montessori school. Let's get these kids, because the reality is humanity is quite immature. relative to the imperative of really, truly unifying, uniting, coming together. We don't have a model for this. And as Ananda has pointed out, and she'll be here anytime, I'm sure, um, humanity has never succeeded at unifying in the past. We've never done it. We don't have a model for it. There have been, major world wars where countries have gotten together to face an existential threat. Invariably, one or more enemy tribes who we then have to go to war with. See, we know how to go to war and we know how to unite to go to war, right? But how do we unite to take on problems that are not ascribed to some enemy tribe? How do we do that? The truth is, we don't know how to do that. So we need to learn. Hence the Montessori School for humanity and her myriad organizations and communities. How do we get these communities to come together? What if we created an intentional city where all such change-making communities, transformational communities are welcome to come together
So ellos
and
dicen
play
que
together?
solo fueron a desayunar, iban a regresar, estar aquí en la alberca, y hasta que ya está más bajo el sol van a ir a la playa. Entonces, probablemente que Budiela lo haga, porque hasta la tarde van a salir.
Pues no lo dudo, Claudia. No lo
Oh,
dudo
sorry.
más. No, it's okay. It's okay.
I didn't realize I was unmuted. Disculpa.
That's okay. That's
Me
okay.
bad.
All right. So, yeah, go ahead, Alan.
Bridges. Create bridges between the different teams and tribes and everything. You're also going to have to create bridges between the different languages, which she just reminded me of. So it's the same basic principle: learn their language.
Absolutely. Bridges between languages, bridges between cultures, and that's why I called the bridge El Puente, the Spanish name for the bridge, to make an explicit call for myriad different languages and peoples to come together. And the idea of El Puente, as we were discussing with Miranda. Hey, welcome back, Miranda. We are recording, and we can pause anytime, as everyone knows. Is we want to hold El Puente perhaps initially with a strong emphasis on Spanish and English and going back and forth and translating. So someone who doesn't know a word in Spanish can come and learn sorry, I was on mute there. I didn't realize. That with El Puente, we can with an initial focus on Spanish and English, we can learn each other's languages, but also learn from each other's cultures. And yeah, go ahead, Alan.
I had the problem in the previous group like this because he wanted to reach all languages with some things that he said, very, very sort of egotistical, wanted to be the voice for everywhere. And he was delighted when I discovered that if you upload a video to YouTube, it automatically translates it into every language. And I've just discovered Microsoft Teams, which writes the subtitles underneath what you say, as long as you don't speak in Scottish. If you speak in Scottish, he doesn't have a clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, I would love it if someone were to translate what you just said to American English. No, but in all seriousness, because the accent is so different, Alan, if you wouldn't mind speaking more slowly, that would really help, just because for a lot of us, and also I think the microphone is having some impact. So here's a real life example. So yes, the translate is super helpful. And in fact, I think we're probably not far away from having real-time translation, which would be super cool. Can you imagine what I'm saying in real time? You see Chinese characters at the bottom of the screen for someone in China. But anyway, so I invite you to Share again, Alan, but maybe quite a bit more slowly would really help. And I know that takes discipline because we want to just talk and talk like we normally talk. Right.
Yeah, that's what I learned from using the Teams. I switched captions on, and it was gibberish along the screen. And then I started to speak slowly and pronounce each word correctly, and it was writing perfect word for word verbatim what I said. So I'll have to use Teams a lot more, so I slow down and speak in English instead of in Scottish. Problem is, when I've done that in the past, and there's Americans in the country, and they say, "We don't understand you, we don't understand you, you gotta speak slower," then I go back to speaking Scottish and say, "No, speak in English, speak as Gaelic, we prefer that."
Wow. Yeah. And also, no, I love it. And a very important part is the cultural part. And I also love the name El Puente, um, because it's a nod not just to the Spanish language, but to Hispanic cultures around the world. And um, one of the things I love about Hispanic cultures generally, which can be, there's a lot of diversity within Hispanic cultures. There is no single Hispanic culture. So I'm going to speak in large, broad brushstrokes. But one of the characteristics of Hispanic cultures is that we it's not okay that you not get it, right? If there's something you're not getting, we don't just do like a lot of Americans do and just say, "Oh, well, screw you, piss off, I don't care. You go do your thing, I'm going to do mine." No, we say, "Hey, whoa, 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 whoa," you know. And you sometimes hear us talk in a higher volume or with more passion. What this really belies is a commitment that we connect and share, right? And so if you go to a party anywhere in Latin America, we don't just wrap up at 10 p.m. and all go to bed angry. No, no, no. We stay up hashing it out until the wee hours of the morning, right? Because it matters. And saving life on earth matters. And so part of, for me, the bridge, El Puente, is I want to make the whole world Hispanic, right? My name is Jamin Shively, and the name may not sound very Hispanic, but I am Hispanic, and I am here to recruit you. Welcome to the Hispanic world. See, I've already recruited Claudia. She's just digging it. And, and I mean, it's like, let's get into it. Let's get into it with each other, but in a loving way, right? In a way that says, welcome, you belong here. We need you here. And let's connect and let's get to shared understanding, right? And ultimately a shared mission. So for me, there's no better culture in the world than, again, broad brushstrokes, Hispanic culture, which is a broad brushstroke. There's no better culture in the world than Hispanic culture for getting people together and loving each other's company, right? One core concept that my teacher in Spain taught me, Don Antonio, was convivencia. Convivencia, living together. Yeah. Oh, I got to pause real quick. I'll be right back. So convivencia, living together, really living together. And, I really learned that in a very visceral way when I lived in Spain for 1 year in 1982 and 1983. I was a 14-year-old kid when I went over. And there in Spain, most people live in cities, which are relatively densely populated. People live in buildings, and you go out on the street and there's just gobs of people there. And so convivencia is a really key part of life, living together, right? And in Latin America, I think they even bump it up a notch, right? And that's what we need to learn to do in the city in the clouds, is how do we live together? How do we work together? How do we come together? And how do we share with each other with a shared commitment that we all get it, right? So, my name is Jamin Shively, and I'm here to recruit you. Become Hispanic, make the transformation, cross el puente with us to la ciudad intencional en las nubes, or 100, right? ICIC. So that's the big idea. So that so the culture of the city, you know how every city kind of has its culture. You go to a new city somewhere, even within the same country, and you feel it. There's a different culture there, right? Well, we need to co-create this new culture together, right? Yes, let's draw from Hispanic culture, but let's draw from all cultures. There's wisdom in all cultures. Some of my favorite sayings are Mexican sayings. There's also some really great sayings from China, right? Chinese sayings. One of my favorites in Chinese goes like this: "Le wo man qi yi hao." I'm just kidding. I don't speak Chinese, but it goes, sleeping in the same bed, dreaming different dreams. Doesn't that just say it all? Just imagine a couple that's fundamentally at odds with each other. They're trying to fake it, and trying to live with it, but they don't do what we Hispanics do, which is stay up as late as we need to talking, maybe even miss a couple nights sleep because we're hashing it out. One of the rules here in our household is we don't go to bed angry. We may have to stay up pretty late, but we will not go to bed angry. We sleep in the same bed, dreaming the same dream. But don't you love that Chinese saying? Sleeping in the same bed, dreaming different dreams. In a half dozen words, it just says it all, right? So, how do we dream the same dream of a world that works and a world where everyone is taken care of? See, as soon as I say is the world where everyone's taken care of, half the gringos say, no, we don't want that, right? So gringo culture is really not a good model. It's a very good model for a lot of individuality, but it's not a good model for the collective, right? For that, we need Hispanic culture. And to draw the wisdom from so many cultures. See, Chinese, I have a lot of Chinese friends from mainland China, from Taiwan, from Hong Kong, but it all comes from the core Chinese civilization, which is a very ancient civilization, and so much of their wisdom is codified in these sayings, right? A lot of Mexican culture and wisdom is codified in Mexican sayings that you'll hear me say from time to time. So how do we come together? What is this new culture, right? And I think it's something we'll just co-create empirically, right? And so, yes, all communities are welcome. All transformational communities, all change-making communities are welcome in the intentional city in the clouds. And part of the process is crossing el puente together, crossing this bridge to a new culture, to a new shared reality. And I believe that a big part of it is that we do it in conversation first. You see, I believe it's a lot easier to reach harmony in conversation through a medium like this than in the real world, where we have private property and we have money and we have all these physical constraints. I believe we can transform it all, right? And live in a new world. Maybe it's a world beyond money. Maybe it's a world beyond private property. I don't know. But it's definitely a world where everyone eats. And it's definitely a lot cooler in a lot of senses than what we've been experiencing. All right. An exponentially overheating planet is not a safe place to raise kids or care for elders or take care of forests or anything, as we've all learned so painfully, right? So, I mean, there's certain things that are just obvious, but what's not obvious is how to get there. What's not obvious is what are the rules, right? And how do we govern ourselves? Governance is a very tricky thing, right? One of the nice sayings I've learned from the anarchists is it's not about an absence of rules, but it's about an absence of rulers. Rules, yes. Rulers, no. Right now, we live in a world of rulers, right? You're on mute there, Claudia, if you were talking here. No problem.
I just typed in with and stupid rules.
And stupid rules, that's right. Stupid rulers and stupid rules. So my fundamental thesis is this, and I kind of, I'll just make an analogy here. So like, let's say we want to, build something on a particular plot of land, right? One way to do it is we all show up with our tools, picks and shovels and concrete, and different people just start building according to what they have in mind, but without really talking with each other about it. And then next thing you know, they're in conflict. Well, no, it should be over here. No, it should be over there. No, we should use a stone foundation. No, a concrete foundation. No, a pile foundation. No, a strip foundation. No, a mat foundation. No. So my analogy here is rather than try to work it out on the construction site with picks and shovels, why don't we work it out in the architect's office, where we can have a nice big conference table, have, your coffee, your tea, your decaf, and we all sit down and say, okay, let's talk about it, right? And let's work it out there before trying to work it out in the real physical world. Great analogy for what I'm proposing for the intentional city in the clouds. Let's work it out here in conversation before we meet back down in the real world and work it out with picks and shovels, so that when we are working it out with picks and shovels, we have a plan, we have agreements, shared agreements, creative agreements, and yes, rules, I think, right? I mean, one way is having it codified in rules. Another way is having it codified in culture, right? So there's a lot of ways to govern ourselves. So I'm not a believer in government, but I am a believer in governance, right? And participatory governance. So what if we co-create this intentional city in the clouds like an architecture firm, where we say this is the place where we come together to work stuff out, so that when we meet back on the surface of the earth, we'll be in agreement. It's a tall order, right? But I mean, how else are we going to do it? Because what we're doing now simply is not working. In fact, we're destroying life very, very quickly, to the point that we can't even really see or grapple with exponential planetary overheating properly, right? I mean, the Biden administration, they're talking climate change, but when it comes down to action, what are they talking about? Reducing emissions. And what emissions do they want to reduce first? The dirtiest of the emissions. Well, it just so happens that the dirtiest of the emissions right now are what are keeping us alive, because they're creating all this soot, which is reflecting sunlight back into space. So it's a form of accidental SRM, right? But SRM is SRM, intentional or accidental. Mirrors are mirrors, photons are photons. And they're not talking SRM at all. They're just talking emissions, right? Which is based on a fundamentally flawed shared understanding that it's all about greenhouse gases and it's all about emissions. So the most powerful government in the world, still the American government, is completely lost when it comes to climate change. totally lost. And in fact, if they have their way, they'll accelerate climate change rather than slow it down by eliminating the dirtiest emissions first. As Dr. Yatow at Harvard showed us on his presentation on November 19th at the press conference, which you can see if you go to thepressconference.org, thepressconference.org, if we were to eliminate all of the dirtiest emissions overnight, within a matter of weeks, we would see a spike in global average temperature of between 1 and 2 degrees centigrade. We could not survive that. So what's Jamin saying? That we shouldn't eliminate the dirtiest of emissions? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is this: before we can eliminate the dirtiest of emissions, we first need to implement their substitute, which is solar radiation management at a planetary scale, so that we can, number one, halt this exponential, boom, stop the exponential and actually reverse it. And the degree to which we first slow it down and then stop it and then actually reverse it is simply a matter of adding more thousands of square kilometers of reflectivity. Ultimately, we need to get up into the millions of square kilometers of reflectivity. How many millions? Depends. How fast do you want to cool the planet? Right? So that's where I'm coming from. So again, how do we build? What kind of culture do we need in the intentional city in the clouds? A culture that enables us to look at the truth and achieve shared understanding about the truth and about what we need to do about it, what actions we need to take. From feeding everyone plant-based foods to deploying massive solar radiation management projects around the world to cool the planet. We need to figure this out. There's so much to figure out. And there are so many entrenched interests which need to be dealt with. Anyway, I've been talking quite a bit. I'm going to go on mute. I'm also going to pause recording for a moment because we may need a moment to catch our breath, but I'm happy to continue recording whenever anyone wants. So pausing recording.
Prophecy, and they've been sharing this energy. And I had a lot of visions when I was younger, and I still do. And this year, as I've been on different platforms, listening to different people speak this last year, I knew, 2021 is a time that I'm going to do what I thought, many, many years ago. I didn't know how, didn't know to what degree, but that Mayan calendar, the sacred fires, I'm actually going to do the walking prophecy. So in November, I'll be starting ceremonies in Canada and then heading to the States, through the States to Mexico, to Guatemala. I hope to be in the either Imperial Maya Quiche or in Tikal in Guatemala to do the solstice ceremony at the temples and pyramids. And then I'll continue south. I'm going to go down one coast and back up the other and then across. And energetically, through the fire in each place, through the braiding of the energy of the people that attend these fires, and hopefully the waters, I will unite the energy of the north and the south. And instead of it just being a prophecy where we do ceremony in our own locations, I'll be taking the ceremony on the road and be doing the walking prophecy. So that's a project I'm starting now, January this year. putting it together, seeing who would like to host a fire in their area so I could map out where I will be going, where we'll be doing the fires, and you know, collaborating with different people, seeing if we can have this documented, seeing if we can have it video. I think the walking prophecy, I think uniting energetically these things is really important.
Wow. Wow. So this will be
Yeah, it's
starting in
probably going to be about
November.
a 4 month journey. I'm going to be on the road driving for about 4 months to do it.
Wow. Wow. Well, I hope you'll invite this intentional city in the clouds to come with you on the journey and check in with ICIC so that we can see what you see.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. No, I love what you just said about the eagle, the condor, and the quetzal, masculine, feminine, and spirit. Because when we go full bore in one direction or the other, that's when we get out of balance. We have to acknowledge all. And so I would say that the culture, this new culture that we're co-creating for ICIC, needs to be in balance. And I mentioned, and it sounds like the Mayan culture has so much of that balance built into it and built into the calendar. I almost want to have like a whole just recurring track on culture and, you know, for lack of a better word, designing a new culture for our time and for the people of the world, and for, it's almost like a transitional culture. I mean, who says that we need a static culture, that no, culture must be like this always, right? Maybe we need a transitional culture, and then once we've made the transition, then a more steady state culture. Or if things are cyclical, a cyclical culture. I don't know. I mean, I'm not like Joe Culture here. I just know that our current cultures are not working. And that for me is yet another inspiration of the intentional city, because what is a city anyway? But it's millions of people coming together who say, hey, listen, no one of us has it figured out. We need all of us to make this city work. So yes, we need experts in culture, we need experts in engineering, experts in philosophy, experts in climate science, experts in biology, all the above. And we need a culture and a shared mission to bring us all together so that we can work together and live together and play together in harmony. You know, it's kind of a scary thing to acknowledge that the culture that I came from and that I currently live in is omnicidal. It's destroying everything. Welcome back, Sir Roland. Sir Roland, welcome. Welcome back. We're recording and we're in a deep conversation about the intentional city in the clouds that we're co-creating and the culture of that city. And how do we bring together people of different languages and cultures and backgrounds? Okay, now it sounds like you can hear us, Sir Roland. Welcome back. Welcome back. Yeah, we're talking about the intentional city in the clouds that we're co-creating. And what kind of a culture would be most fitting for the intentional city in the clouds? And how do we create a culture of change making? And I would posit that's something you know something about, Sir Roland. How do we create a culture of change making? A change making culture. And what is the objective? What's the mission? What is the big change that we want to make happen? Right? I think a lot of us can agree on a lot of things about the changes we need. But how do we get humanity as a whole to agree on what we want to change to? I think there are a lot of people who are attached to being privileged and on the top of the heap, right? They may not be too excited about seeing the heap flattened out, right? In terms of privilege and in terms of who gets to eat and who doesn't. I mean, when I talked with Bill Gates, I was corporate strategy manager at Microsoft. When I talked with Bill Gates about ending world hunger, he was not interested. He was simply not interested. He brushed it aside. When I wanted to talk with him about marketplaces, very interested. Money, very interested. I told him about Alibaba and Jack Ma, very interested. He went and met with Jack Ma on my recommendation. But feeding everyone, he was not interested. I think, for example, in his case, and in the case of a lot of billionaires, there's an attachment to being not just in the top 1%, but in the top 0.00001%. There's an attachment, even an addiction, to being number one. And really, it's an attachment to separation, to being separate and to saying, I'm a winner and you're not. And you know what? I like it that way. So we've got a lot to overcome. I kind of feel like I'm stating the obvious. Oh, Jimena's here. All right. Jimena. Jimena, bienvenida. Cariñito, donde te hallas, con quién te andarás paseando. Jimena, welcome. Hey, how are you?
How are you guys?
Great. We're recording and we can pause anytime, as you all know. And we're deep.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. No, and we're deep in a conversation about the intentional city in the clouds that we're co-creating and the culture of that city and El Puente to help us get there. And one of the points I'm making is that there is so much that we have to learn from Hispanic cultures in terms of creating the culture of the intentional city. because in Hispanic cultures, and I'm speaking broad brushstrokes, obviously there's a lot of different Hispanic cultures, but one thing that pretty much all of them have in common is coming together, convivencia, living together, working together, and achieving shared understanding. And it's not okay that you don't get it. If there's something you don't get, I'm going to talk with you about it. And we're going to go there together. And that's part of the bridge, is going there together, el puente. Let's go to the intentional city together. See, one thing I hate about gringo Anglo-Saxon culture is, if you don't get it, well, that's okay. I don't care, because you don't matter to me. What matters is me. All right. Hispanic culture is not that way. We say, hey, let's come together, let's talk about it, let's work it out. And sometimes we get very passionate, and that's a good thing, to be passionate about something you love, like saving life on Earth and like coming together. So one of the things I said that made Claudia laugh is, I want the world to become Hispanic, to embrace the culture of convivencia, sharing, coming together. We have so much to share with the rest of the world. So come to El Puente and let's go there together. And more broadly, we have so many. Yes, Jimena, yes.
I have a question. I received the mail, okay? Like, seriously. The thing of the Diablo. Are you kidding?
No, we changed the name.
Oh,
Claudia,
thank God.
Claudia slapped me around a bit, and so did my uncle. And so the new name for that ride
Thank God.
is La Cola del Diablo.
No.
No, not even that. Oh boy. Okay. All right.
Jamin, get serious, please. Like this amusement park.
Mucho
okay?
mejor que culo. Es mucho mejor que culo. I know.
No.
Sorry, I'm a bit distracted. I've got whales swimming in front of me.
No,
You have
I swear,
whales?
guys. Like, I've
been whale watching every day.
I'm in love with this project. I've been here 6 months. I don't want those names to be in the amusement park. I'm
Those
sorry.
ballenas.
What is she saying? The ballenas?
No, she's talking to someone else in her house. She forgot to mute.
No, Jamin, let's get serious, please.
No, that's fine. I'm all about getting serious. So, but you don't even like La Cola del Diablo.
No, of course not.
Okay, all right. Well, we need to come up with some name that conveys the urgency of exponential.
You can say El Soplete or something like that. I don't know.
What's soplete?
The thing that you use to burn the iron and to found the metal with other metal to join.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me look for the word. But we need to get serious. Like, this is a serious project. Like, I don't know.
No.
This is my opinion, okay? And everybody can be against me. I'm in love with this project. I've been here 6 months, and I would appreciate very much us to get serious and like having easy names for the people also to remember. Like, as a linguist, I am very aware that it's very important, simple concepts, practicity, like not complicating things, like these romantic things going on, like names, Akashic records. I don't know. No, I really would love us to agree on simplicity and practicity and simple concepts that arrive to the mind of the people, not rebuscado. I don't know how to say rebuscado.
No, very good, very good. How about the devil's flamethrower?
English, yeah. I'm looking for that. Blow torch, blow lamp.
Okay. Yeah.
That is a soplete.
Soplete. Soplete. Okay.
Lanzallamas.
El soplete del diablo. Okay. The devil's blowtorch.
I'm really like, I'm going crazy with this. Like, I can laugh hours and hours, I swear. Like yesterday I was reading the mail and I was with the guys in the hours of the night because like they got me with this joke that I really didn't like with. Yeah, we were in the little hours and we were like, what is this?
What has Jamin been smoking?
No, I respect you very much and you know that I appreciate you and somehow like I'm in love with this project and I want this to be not blown away like.
Yeah. No, very good. Well, that's why we're talking about it.
That's my opinion. Okay. So I saw Culo del Diablo. I saw like, no, please. What happened?
But it did make you laugh. It did make you laugh.
Yeah, it was like Casa de la Risa, like fun house. Like, what is it? No, we need to get serious.
No, I agree. You're right. No, it's like it may have been funny at first, but you know, we need something that will take us the distance. El soplete del diablo. So we have the devil's blowtorch.
And there's another thing I need to tell you, okay? Like in the SAN networks and respectively the couple that we know, they are talking about a bridge also. I don't know where did that came from, but we need to see like your puente, your ideas, like something about doing with, like they are planning to do another event of MLK in 40 days. In this would be in February, and that is for bridging something. And Antoinette and Summer were talking about bridging something. So yeah, just to understand, like the ideas are over there in the source, you know, like they can get it and they like, this is a big coincidence, but just for you to be aware of how to build this out, because they are not promoting the conversation at all. Like they are just like doing their things. They don't want to be part of this. I like Marco and I got that hints. And so yeah, like being there, like being not part, but being participant, you know, like an outsourcing or put it as whatever you want, because I'm universal and I'm working for the earth. And I told them that I belong to here, like I was born here, you know, I was respected, I was valued, I was put over here to understand many things and how we can work. And I told the ones that asked me, like, where did you came from? Like, how did you get to lighting our way together? I told them I was in the conversation, and we need to be together. Like we need to be promoting ourselves, not only promoting Dr. Salish or this or that. It's everyone needs to be promoting all the networks, right? Because we are supposed to be in the SAN network. So if we are part of that project, then what is fair is to be promoting the networks, right? So yeah, I wanted you to know this, and that there is many people that is working yeah, for the sake of humanity, not in teams like I'm in this team, I'm in this other team. No, they are just like concentrate in giving their soul and expertise and whatever they know and whatever they can share as stewards, as hostess of events, as helpers and everything. And they are with their hearts and they are precious people. And I don't think they are doing teams at all. Which is what we all supposed to do.
Sorry, call came in, but I took care of it.
No worries.
Yeah, I mean, this really gets to the heart of why we're creating the intentional city in the clouds, is because right now what we have is all these different communities down on Earth, right? And we're still playing in the old paradigm of separation and hoarding, not just hoarding of money and property and animals and whatever else can be hoarded, slaves, whatever, but hoarding of credit and saying, hey, I'm the one who came up with this idea and I'm the one who, created this whatever, right? And
yes,
I mentioned before that, we've talked about, I don't want to name names, we are recording now, but I've been the subject of 2 different character assassination attempts, both coming from within the same transformational community that felt jealous of what we're doing here. First, when we created the conversation, next when we created the press conference. And I think that's all too common. And folks like Malini and Kate have been pointing this out for months and saying, listen, we need to come together. And so what I believe we need is a safe space. Not just safe, but we need a space that is safe and conducive to coming together with the right culture, with the right infrastructure, right? And what came to mind is a city, because within a city, you can have all different communities and neighborhoods and this and that who have different approaches, different philosophies, different stories, different whatever, right? But we can all coexist in the same city, in the clouds, as Alan is generating clouds there in Scotland. So, how do we do this, right? Because part of the thing is here on Earth, on the surface of the Earth, where land is divided and it's a world of money, and if you want to eat, you have to have money. So it's like here on Earth, it's not yet a safe space for communities to come together. I think it's much safer. I used the analogy earlier. I was talking about it's almost like creating a Montessori school up in the clouds, right? To play nice together and to have a safe space, right? With enough, grown-ups in the room, right? But really with the intention of co-creating an intentional city in the cloud. See, there's all these intentional communities here, there, and everywhere in the real world, virtual intentional communities, etc. But the problem is that these different communities are not playing well together. And they're barely even talking with each other, right? And
yes.
So, so the big question is,
this division either has to come to an end, okay? Like everybody talking like an event, a special event for that. Like we need to arrange this, we need to come together. Like we are all in the same boat and we should be rowing to the same direction, not someone rowing for one direction, others for other. Like we are not going to arrive where we want to arrive. And solve this out, or either everybody would do their project and there would be with the people that started with them doing their project, and there would be like we can say the jokers, like in the cards, right? Like they're going to be here and there because they are not deciding with which side to be which side to be taken because they are neutral and they want to remain like that, and we need to respect that. But we need to understand if someone is promoting the conversation and the conversation is promoting the others, then this should be fair game. Like everybody should be doing what they are supposed to do, not giving links that they are not getting to the conversation, not telling deceiving things, or, oh yeah, you can go there, but it's better this event because we are having here, you know, like, I don't know, like Chief Field told, do not gossip, do not slander, do not critic, do not like, be honorable. Personify your word and your actions. And this is what we need to do. And this is like coming in an agreement and trying to be together all, even with these differences that we can understand about the things. I started this, so I have to get credit, and we need to let them understand that this is not possible, that this is not a time for credit, this is not a time for copyrights or for intellectual properties. We are trying to build another different thing, and we need to come together, all rowing in the same boat to the same direction, not ones to one direction, others to other direction, because this is going to be like nonsense. Like this work that we've been doing, committing ourselves to be here and with our love and with all our resources and whatever, is not going to be worth it. It's not going to arrive if someone is sabotaging the project of the others. This is not going to be possible at all. Like I can be the interpreter in both sides, but I really respect both sides. And I really understand that if someone is trying to join us together, it's you, Jamin. And you have to be clear with that and make them understand, like really understand, like getting all together and making them understand that this is fair game. This is not, I'm going to promote you when I want to, and I'm going to do whatever I want. And to be clear, because like, this is not intellectual property time. And even though if we could understand like the universal source, like everything is over there already, you know. There's a saying of Bono of YouTube. He says, what are we going to do where all the books have been, where all the things have been said and all the books have been read? Like, we should not be that envious or that egolatric, that egoic, that, oh, I invented this. Come on, like, what's the name of, oh, I forgot. Stanley should be receiving royalties from Facebook because he started the first Facebook. So talking about ideas, we can go like very, very back, and yeah, stop being this envious and this, oh, I invented this, I say that. And I'm not talking about you because you are so coherent. I respect you very much and you've been trying to join us. So this is the time to join us together. Maybe involving Chief Phil, which I can bring to the table, maybe involving Adriana, which I can bring to the table, which is neutral, who doesn't know about this or that, but the whole. And yes, like all together doing this, not someone's doing this, others doing that, or that's impossible.
You know, oh yeah, go ahead, Alan.
I've not been here long, but from what I can see so far of the structure, you yourself, Jamin, seem to be the bridge at the moment, and the breakout rooms are the first step over the bridge. That sound about right? for this Zoom call anyway, not for the world.
I heard most of what you had to say, but it's partly an accent, but partly a microphone thing, I think. So if you could speak, yeah.
This microphone, or is it this microphone?
Oh, see, now that's better. That's better. When you get closer to the microphone, it's better. But also, please talk slowly so we can really.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're gonna have to move my camera so that in future I'll be closer to it, because I've been putting this closer to my mouth, thinking that it was going to make a difference, and it's this one.
No, but when you come closer this way, like you did a few seconds ago, we see you better and we hear you better. So you could just look right here, like right, yeah. Look, come closer, and then just.
The screen, I've ran out of cable. It's all the way around the back and ran out of cable. I can put it
Right there, Alan. That's it.
Basically what I said, from not being here very long, but the ideas that I've heard, when one of them, like the idea of a bridge, taking the first step onto the bridge, people don't know where they're going, so they need a forum like this where it's kind of for beginners, teaching you all the, you know, and in these breakout rooms, it's for, like what you said earlier today, I think it was designers and engineers and electronics people and computer programmers. I wouldn't understand what they're talking about, but that's a step on the bridge.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Alan. And, you know, getting back to what you're saying, Jimena, I'm reminded of the words of Buckminster Fuller, which I'm not going to quote exactly, but basically, don't try to change people, give them a tool. And I believe the tools we need right now are an intentional city in the clouds where all change making and transformational communities are welcome, regardless of whether they agree or disagree, and even regardless of whatever baggage they're bringing with them, right? Come first and let's work it out here in a safe place, right? That's one, is the city, the intentional city in the clouds. And the second is a bridge to that city, right? So people who don't know about it or people who just heard about it, how do we help them come and make a proper visit to the intentional city? How do we do that, right? And that's what we're doing right here with the concept of El Puente, which signals that, hey, this is open to all peoples of all languages and all cultures, right? So I really think that's the key. I think rather than me going to whoever and saying, hey, you know, you need to do this and you need to do that, and this is why what you're doing is wrong and this and that, they might just turn around to me and say, well, listen, right back at you, boom, 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 you are doing this and that, and I don't like you and whatever. Rather than go there, here on earth, let's create this safe space, this Montessori school, this Waldorf school in the clouds, right? And let's simply be the change that we want to see in the world in the clouds. Because I think it's a lot safer and more productive to work it out here in conversation than to try to work it out in the real physical world, which is still a very dangerous place, I would say, especially for change makers, right? I mean, when I set out to make change working with President Vicente Fox in the real world to get rid of prohibition and get rid of violent criminal drug cartels, I got very violent responses from the criminal drug cartels, including explicit death threats and from time to time, real physical violence as a message that we're serious, right? And here creating, here in the change making circles, when we started making real change happen, I've had 2 character assassination attempts coming from the same transformational community. It's dangerous in the real world. It's just very dangerous. And so I think we need to create a safe space where we can make change happen, even if it's in a different place than the real world, an intentional city in the clouds, right? Where we can co-create a culture, and a culture that is so open, so inviting, so welcoming. I feel like we've approximated it here, right? But I still feel like we have work to do. And so in a way, we're taking the step back so that we can go forward. Despacio que tengo prisa. Slow down, I'm in a hurry. Let's slow down and create the right context. In this case, a city, an intentional city in the clouds that's all about making it safe for all these change makers and change making communities to come together. Yes, Alan.
Did I unmute my, yeah. I imagine, like you spoke about architects, people want to see something, and nowadays architect programs, when they're finished, they can give you like what it looks like from the sky, looking down on it like real world, just like children's games. Wee boy plays Minecraft and builds his own worlds, and you can fly up in the sky and look at them. Architects have programs like that nowadays. So building something like that, we all get to have a look and say, oh yeah, it looks like that, it's good. And you get to see the progress and how a real city is actually being built. I just wrote a piece of a script for a world peace community for a movie. This is live, this is going on broadcast, I better not say too much about it. But the idea, one of the ideas I presented, I don't know which one's going to be used, but say for example, the Sahara Desert, just get everybody to grab a load of stuff, take it with them and start building, and then go back home, get more stuff and go back and start building. And you know, that's the idea for a movie. But my boss's idea, he prefers buy an island and start there. But actually building a physical city at some point, that's like a break-off room that'll be all kinds of technicians and engineers and computer experts designing stuff, coming back saying, here, look at this idea, look at that idea. I'm actually right now in, what's it called? Just got it yesterday, Second Life. And I'm flying up in the sky in the clouds, looking down at an empty space where I'm ready to build. And I've switched on the microphone. So if anyone comes into my world, I'm broadcasting all of this live from the cloud into that world, but there's nobody there at the moment.
Yeah, you know, I've thought about Second Life as a place where we might want to build part of the intentional city in the clouds. You know, build part of it on Second Life, right? Or at a minimum, a portal from Second Life to the intentional city in the clouds. Is Second Life thriving these days? What's any idea? Like how big the community is and how transformational?
I just got my account back yesterday. I found it about 10 years ago, and so old school Microsoft Windows and stuff. I really enjoyed it, but it's so complicated because it's a game. It's not sort of user friendly like Minecraft. So there's so many options. I thought, oh, it's just so complicated. I gave up. But now that I'm more savvy with all the changes Microsoft's made, it's looking a lot easier to use. So I think I'll get used to it quite quickly. I've not worked out how to build yet, but I've got a community of friends I met through the same person linked me to yourself, and linked me to another community who are all into Comic Cons and Second Life, and they're all very, very close knit. And
Cool. Oh, very good. It feels to me like the key is, or some of the keys are culture and focus. You know, what are we talking about and how are we talking about it? With what intention? With what focused intention? And philosophy. You know, what do we believe? Yeah. What do we believe about the world? What do we believe about what's possible? What do we believe about change making and transformation? What do we believe about different communities coming together?
Take it with a pause if I can speak. It's okay to screen share for a few seconds. I'll show you what I'm doing right now, and I'm just floating in the sky, and you see the voice booming out from above the mountains, looking down at a space of land ready to build. It's just a nice picture for building a city. Well, here's a plot of land where you could start to build. It'd be nice if it was in the real world, but I'll screen share it for a few seconds, if I remember it.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I'm floating in the clouds, and if you speak, you see the green voice there booming out. So all the stuff you've been saying, if there's anybody down there on the ground trying to build, I don't know what the voice range is, but just for a
Now,
visual.
is that within Second Life?
Yeah, just a visualization of somebody just got into the game, ready to start building in the cloud.
Yeah, well, actually, that's something that we've contemplated. So we have something that we've created. I've mentioned before, the press conference, and so now that we have this focus on the intentional city in the clouds, ICIC, we're moving everything that we're doing up to ICIC, including the press conference. So the press conference will now have kind of two functions, and it might even speak in two different ways. One speaking to the community, to the intentional city, to people within the intentional city, residents of the intentional city, and visitors to the intentional city. And another communication is down to the world, right? To those who are not in the intentional city, right? And almost like, you know, an adult speaks differently to another adult as they speak to a 2-year-old, right? So we may have very similar messages that we want to convey, but the way that we convey it may be very different, right? And so as we're creating this new culture in this new intentional city, we need to be able to obviously speak with people within that new culture, which I think can become a very efficient form of communication and a very efficient way of achieving, you know, sintonia, right? Harmony. And, but then perhaps a very different way of communicating with people back on Earth, right? So maybe two different press conferences with two different, you know, ways of speaking. I don't know. I'm just thinking as we build this out. Part of me wants to just go up to the intentional city in the clouds with you all and forget about the rest of the earth for a while and just create something absolutely wonderful. And Jimena, before you came on, we also talked about the analogy of the architecture firm, right? And, you know, imagine we want to build a building, you know, in Mexico City. We have the plot of land and we have the intention of creating some building, but we haven't designed it yet. So we all show up at the construction site with our picks and shovels, and each of us starts digging and building according to what each of us has in mind, but we don't have a common plan yet. We're going to start bumping into each other and coming into conflict very quickly, right? Versus if we say, hey, whoa, slow down, I'm in a hurry. Despacio que tengo prisa. Let's first go to the architecture firm and get on the whiteboard and draw pictures and talk and share and look at different options and ultimately build towards consensus, right? Of now, And once we've achieved that consensus and that design, that shared design, now we can go to the construction site and start building. But even then, and I see you have your hand up, Alan, but even then there's another stage from design to construction plan, which is all about phases and stages to ultimately get to the goal, right? So for me, one analogy of the intentional city in the clouds is an architecture firm where we work it out there in the virtual, right? And even do what you were talking about, Alan, have walkthroughs and everything else, flyovers, and really be able to see it from all these different perspectives before we finalize it and say, okay, this is the blueprint. Now let's create the construction plan, right, for how to build this. And Alan, yes, please, you had your hand up.
That's me clapping, actually. That's clap. There's not a hands up thing there. It must be another button. I was thinking, like, you said Mexico, they're quite warm country there, so greenhouses might not be so necessary, but if you were to start in Scotland, before you even build the city, you would need greenhouses for the food, and solar panels so you go in first, solar panels and greenhouses, and then come back another time to start the foundations of the city.
Yeah. So, you know, what do we need to build first, second, third? And that's why I put so much emphasis on culture, right? Before we can even talk about what we want to create together, what the goal should be, or what the design should be, let's first have a culture within which we can talk with each other in a creative, co-creative, harmonious way. And again, that doesn't mean that there will be differences, right? But up until now on the planet, we've been using our differences as an excuse for conflict, when in the intentional city, I believe we can leverage our differences as opportunities for synthesis and perspective, right? Oh, you see things differently. Tell us about your perspective, versus, oh, you see things differently. You're an enemy, and now I need to figure out how to take you down.
I'm going to go one level up, and closer to the clouds, I'm going to go one level up.
All right. Very good.
I have an opinion about the thing of the clouds. Do you hear me?
Yeah, tell it.
Okay,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
wait, because I'm running out of battery, and I need to be in the balcony because so yeah, okay. Maybe it should be in the cloud, not in the clouds, because like the words give information, and somehow we are telling, this is my opinion, okay? And I can be wrong. I'm just expressing some things that I consider. Like, if you say in the cloud, like that would be very accurate for what we are living right now, about having the information in the cloud somehow. Like that is a technological term. And in the clouds is like daydreaming, like etheric, like more poetic, okay? And it is good. It may function for many people. The thing is that maybe if we think this not as El Dorado, or this land that is somehow out of reach, it would be more approachable, you know, like, wait a second, please. Oye, Anita.
Well, the cloud is also representative of the internet because we all store our information on the cloud. So that's the one thing that unites the whole world is the internet cloud. I said I'm going closer to the clouds because up the stairs in my house is closer to the clouds in Scotland, which are above me in the sky.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, it would be easier for people to identify that we are building something in the cloud of the internet and not that utopic, like, I don't know, maybe a letter can change it very much. So that's something I wanted to contribute.
Beautiful, beautiful. No, there's a lot of sense about what you're saying, Jimena and Alan. In the cloud, yeah, definitely. In the internet, on the internet. So no, I'm definitely open to changing that. And it's not up to me; it's up to us.
Of course,
So
of course, of course.
Yeah, no. Part of my inspiration for the clouds, plural, was from the movie.
Sorry.
Was from the movie. That's okay. That's okay. Was from the movie The Empire Strikes Back, the second Star Wars movie that came out in whatever 1981 or whenever it was. The city in the clouds that they went to, where Lando Calrissian was, etc. And part of my thinking that instead of in the cloud singular is precisely that if we say, oh, it's in the cloud, then people say, oh, well, I know what that is. You're creating yet another social network, something in the cloud, because everyone's talking about the cloud. But what about the clouds, plural, right? What do they mean by that? And one of the answers that I've been playing with for that is, well, which clouds? There's the ionosphere, the stratosphere, the different layers of the atmosphere. So what layer are we playing with? And my answer is the zoomosphere, right? We're in the layer of the zoomosphere. We meet up in the zoomosphere, right? And in a way, we get to make real and concretize this concept of the zoomosphere. I actually own a lot of domain names that are zoomosphere, different spellings of zoomosphere, right? With that in mind. And anyway, just playing with the concepts. I think we'll in the end, we'll just feel like what feels right. Like my uncle told me, no, use Cola del Diablo. And I thought, oh, that's because he's my uncle and he's older and old school and all that. But then Claudia said, hey, and then Jimena, all right. I got it. But Jimena, you don't even like Cola del Diablo. That's just an example. But you see, in conversation, we're playing with it, right? And to those of you who aren't Hispanic yet, because I want you all to be Hispanic, look at how we Hispanics work it out, right? For us, it's not okay that you don't get it. And maybe I'm the one who needs to get it, but we all need to get it together. Hey, we all need to get it together. And that has two meanings: get it together and get it together. Do you see the difference? Yeah.
I was just wanting to ask if it's okay for me to share the Zoom link on my websites and bring people in.
Absolutely, yes. See,
because I've got lots of websites with lots of different approaches or whatever they are, but all of them could focus on sending a link to here.
I love it. I love it. Love it. Thank you, Alan. Yes, please. Absolutely, unequivocally. A friend of Alan's is a friend of mine. So please, please, please. And it sounds like you're quite technical. Alan. And by the way, we can always pause recording. So if I ask you something and you say, hey, you know, this is personal, feel free to just say, hey, Jamin, please pause recording. No problem. We can do that anytime. But I'd love to know more about you. And whenever is good, right? One of the things here, one of our creative agreements in the conversation is we don't put people on the spot and say, hey, you know, tell me this about yourself or tell me that, right? It's we're definitely very open to people sharing. David, welcome. We are recording, and we can always pause recording anytime. Just do the pause signal. You know the rules. And but we are recording. And Jimena, yes. Or you're just saying hi. Okay. Yeah. So David, we are all really grooving on this concept that we're co-creating of the intentional city in the clouds and a whole new culture for this intentional city. See, we're all familiar with intentional communities of all different kinds, but right now here on Earth, playing the old Earth, Jordan, welcome. All right, we've got Hungary in the house, Scotland in the house, Mexico in the house. From time to time, Canada in the house. Anyway, great to see everyone here. And we're talking about the intentional city in the clouds. We are recording, and we can pause anytime. Just do that, and we'll pause instantly, no problem. And you know, we're all familiar with intentional communities, but these intentional communities are still here on Earth, and life on Earth is sick. It is ill. And we're trapped in this all-day monopoly game of individual hoarding for individual survival. And there is so much competition and people trying to take other people down and people trying to hoard credit and power and this and that. So for me, it makes all the sense in the world that we move this party up into the clouds and create a whole new city, an intentional city where all intentional communities are welcome and all change makers are welcome and all transformational communities are welcome. And we're talking about really a safe space where we can work it out together. I was just also making the analogy, imagine we owned a plot of land together and we wanted to build something. And we said, great, let's go build whatever, a building, whatever. And we all just show up with our picks and shovels and each of us starts building and working according to what we have in mind individually, but we haven't even created a drawing of it yet. It's not going to take us very long to get into conflict with each other and say, hey, what are you doing over there? I was planning on putting part of my foundation there. Oh, no. I was going to put a fountain here, put something. No. Right. And then we're all in conflict. Instead, of course, a much better approach is that we all meet at the architecture firm in a big conference room and we start sharing ideas there before we break out the picks and shovels. Right. So it's kind of like a safe space removed from the construction site where we can slow down because we're in a hurry and take our time and co-create, collectively co-design what we really want. And the first thing we need to do then is talk about what we really want. You see how we keep backing it up, taking it a step back, right? Before going forward in the physical world. So we first need to talk about what we want. But even before that, we need to learn how to talk. We need to learn how to talk with each other. We need to learn how to come together, different people from different communities, from different cultures. Hence, el puente, the bridge, to bridge the different communities, bridge the different cultures, bridge the different languages, as even the name El Puente suggests. the bridge? How do we do it? So there's so much we need to figure out. So in my mental model, we're creating a whole new intentional city to be a safe space for all these intentional communities and nonprofits and transformational communities and change makers and change making organizations and philosophies, et cetera, to come together and figure it out in this safe, protected space in the clouds. And once we've really figured it out, or as we figure it out, we then go back down to earth and implement. And there's, of course, multiple different approaches that we could take to this whole game. One would be, hey, let's go up to the clouds and stay there as long as it takes until we've figured everything out. But the only problem with that is by the time we come back down to earth, the earth might be a charred remains of a scorched earth from a combination of exponential climate change, animal agriculture, and this system of money and this all-day monopoly game of individual hoarding for individual survival. All right. So perhaps a better approach is, okay, yes, let's meet in the city in the clouds and let's agree to meet there regularly. And let's very quickly figure out, what do we need to do first? I mean, there's some obvious things that we need to do, right? Before we figure it all out. For me, one of the most obvious things is to feed everyone nutritious plant-based foods, thus eliminating, maybe not all at once, but definitely very aggressively eliminating animal agriculture by feeding everyone plant-based foods. That's a huge step forward. Feeding everyone is a huge step forward, right? And if we take the approach of food healers, there on their screen, you'll see an image, Marco's image of a community cafe. That's me in the middle in the brown coat and the black t-shirt. There we fed everyone in a particular community. In that picture, Rosamond, California, Southern California, in the edge of the Mojave Desert. We fed everyone for free, right? But everyone had to come to one common place. Well, now in the time of COVID, that's not appropriate. So instead, we've come up with the food healers model of delivering the food to everyone, right? Which also stops the spread or takes huge strides in the direction of stopping the spread of pandemics. Because why do most people leave their home in times of pandemic? To get food, or to go work, or beg, or borrow, or steal to get money to then go to a store where there's a bunch of other people in close contact to get food. So everything about that system is goes in the direction of spreading pandemics, not stopping the spread. Food healers, where we deliver the food to you so you don't have to leave your home, or you don't have to go far from your home, will be the single biggest thing we can do to stop the spread of pandemics. What happened in China when it started spreading there? They said, everyone stay at home, we'll bring you the food. This isn't rocket science. Stay home. Oh, you need food, we'll bring you the food. So simultaneously, we can take huge bites out of animal agriculture. We can stop the spread of pandemics, and we can eliminate the penalty for losing at the all-day monopoly game of individual hoarding for individual survival. Right now, the penalty for losing the all-day monopoly game is death by starvation. There are millions of our sisters and brothers who die every year from starvation, and those numbers are increasing with a combination of exponential climate change, droughts, fires, pandemic, economic collapse, political collapse, you name it. Hunger is in the process, those who are hungry is in the process of doubling over the last, year and into this new year. So the problem is getting worse, not better. So for all these reasons, for me, it's obvious. For me, it's obvious we should start by feeding everyone. And we have models for that. But that's me. I want to know what you think. is the obvious first step for what we need to do here on Earth that we can map out in the cloud, in the intentional city in the clouds. And that for me is a perfect example of a great conversation to have in the intentional city. What do we need to do first? What do we need to do second? What do we need to do third? Can we begin to map out a plan? Again, maybe we won't figure it all out immediately, right, in one single pass, but maybe we start with what's most urgent. If the house is on fire, what's immediately obvious and urgent is very simple. Call the fire department, put out the fire, right? Next step, make sure everyone's okay. Is everyone accounted for? Oh, this person is suffering from burns, whatever. Okay, heal them. Put out the fire, save life, heal life, and finally transform life, right? That's my perspective. This is an example of the kind of conversations I believe we urgently need to have in the intentional city in the clouds. Which is why I'm now spending, per agreement from yesterday's meeting, 16 hours per week in meetings just like this, collectively architecting and building the intentional city in the clouds. Sounds like I need to take a break for a moment. I'm going to pause recording, mute my microphone, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, continuing recording. Anyway, I kind of feel like I've been talking on the talking feather quite a bit. Happy to take a pause from that. In fact, now that we're 2 hours into this segment of the meeting, I think I will take a little break. So I'm going to pause recording unless people want me to continue.